Welcome to the Dork Forest. Jackie and her pals will never bore us. Shameless confessions
about our obsession
will make us laugh and smile. So let's explore the Dork Forest and dork out for a while.
Hello and welcome to the Dork Forest. It's Jackie-cation and it's May. I will tell you that May, I'm all over the place. I am in Boston doing the Women in Comedy Festival the weekend of the 8th, May 8th. I am working all over Los Angeles doing various headlining sets for Andrei Belikov, who I don't know very well, but has booked me in things like Goleta, so you can check my schedule on my website. I'm in Scottsdale at Stand Up Scottsdale the weekend of the 23rd and 24th, and I'm in Tacoma, Washington, outside Seattle in its own city called Tacoma, Washington, the last weekend of May. And then the first weekend of June, I'm doing AnimeCon again, A-Con in Dallas. Live Dork Forests, stand-up comedy. That's right. JackieCation.com, DorkForest.com, TheDorkForest.com. Those are the websites. Mike Rickberg just sang that song he composed with his girlfriend, Sarah Cohen, and he will sing the Mexican Hat Dance at the end of the show. Patrick Brady will fix this audio. And then Vilmos just updated my website, JackieCation.com, with some new headshots and stuff for people, and a really great picture of me and Tiberius that the headshot guy took. Also on my website, there's plenty of merch. Dork Forest t-shirts, the new CD, the new DVD. This will make an excellent Horcrux. So go for it. There's also a link on there to the $5 download of the DVD show if you just want to download it and watch it that way. The DVD has one bonus track, and that's exciting. You could also just donate. Donate to the show if you are enjoying the Dork Forest. $8.33 a month is $100 a year, which is what I was hoping from each and every Ranger. $100 a year. $8.33 a month. I haven't made it easy. You're going to have to remember to do it. $8 in there. But there's a donation button on dorkforest.com, tdf.libsyn.com, and JackieCation.com. Turns out there's donation buttons around. This month's episode is sponsored by my sister, and there is an ad. She's a helper Magoo. She's a financial advisor with RBC Dane Rauscher, and she's a good egg. So if you are looking for financial advice, I would recommend that you get in touch with my sister, Darla Cation, and you can hear her ad now. Thanks a lot for tuning in. At RBC Wealth Management, social responsibility starts at the top. As a part of the Royal Bank of Canada, RBC has been recognized among the world's financial, social, and environmental corporate leaders. Our sense of responsibility extends to our reputation for putting clients' interests first. My personal commitment is to help you achieve your financial goals by also considering sustainable and responsible investing strategies. To learn more, visit www.darlacashin.com. RBC Wealth Management, a division of RBC Capital Markets, LLC. Member NYSE, FINRA, SIPC. Hey, it's Jackie-cation. I'm at the Moon Tower Oddity and Comedy Festival here in Austin, Texas. And let's get right into it. W. Kamau Bell, welcome to the program.
Thank you. We finally did this.
I know, and we've been meaning to do it since New York.
Yeah.
In the winter.
I think we actually tried to do it at Moon Tower, and I think I fell asleep.
Oh, a year ago, Moon Tower.
2 years ago, Moon Tower.
2 years. Oh, that's right. Okay. Yeah, it's let's get the business to at W. Kamau Bell on Twitter and WKamauBell.com, oddly enough.
Yeah. WKAMAUBELL for all of those who are like, how do you spell any of that?
Right. And the beautiful but short-lived television program, Totally Biased.
Yes, I am now officially, as I've been saying, an African-American folktale.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, the man couldn't handle my truth bombs.
That's it.
Me and Frank's Place.
You're the Paul Bunyan of FXX.
Yes, I'm the John Henry of expanded cable television shows.
I always wanted to be a guest on your show as a person who didn't know anything. Like, it would be like Aparna or guy or somebody just telling me some horrible news thing.
Yes.
And me going, what did someone say? What is the out loud voice?
Had we only been around long enough for you to pitch us that, you would have been on the show.
Just me, someone explaining to me about Cliven, what's his face?
Cliven Bundy.
And his last name is Bundy?
Yeah, he's got one of the great, like, if you just said, meet my friend Cliven Bundy, you'd be like, is your friend a racist? Like, you just feel like that's Cliven.
Cliven Bundy. Was he given 6 bullets as a child and told to bring home 5 pieces of game?
Yes. No, that's Cliven Bundy. There's no joy in that name.
Yeah, there's not a lot of, Good Lord. Anyway.
Who knew that was a name? Cliven. I didn't know that.
Yeah, that feels super rural.
Yeah.
Like someone thought Clive was just too city.
Yeah.
And they're like, we're going.
Sellout.
That's it.
Sounds homosexual.
Exactly. That guy's gay. His name's Clive.
Yeah.
And because my father-in-law's name is Clyde, and Clyde Ashcraft, and so he grew up in Mississippi, and and then my mother-in-law is Helen Christine. Like
Nice.
and her oldest brother is Hubert Lynn.
Yes, these are some.
So there's some serious Southern names going down
Southern
there.
Names, yeah.
And
I can hear Helen Christine, get in here.
right. So Helen Christine has always, as long as she has been in charge of her own name, she's like, just Chris. Chris will be fine. Chris will be just fine.
Yes.
And I have so we're doing it. We're here in Austin. Do you love Austin? Let's plug the city.
I do. I when I first came, I was like in love with Austin. And now I feel like I need to come to Austin when it's not a festival.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I feel like my vision of this city is skewed through a festival.
That's a good idea.
And my vision of the city is skewed through, most times I'm here, I'm right near 6th Street. And that 6th Street is the kind of street I would avoid in any other city.
I want to avoid it now.
Yeah, no, when I had my headlining show a couple days ago, and I was like walking to it, and I looked, where is it? And I walked, and I suddenly had to turn down 6th Street, and I was like, oh no.
Oh, right.
Oh, not here.
This is where the blue light isn't allowed because of the, there's so much.
Oh, yes.
Horrible. It's not, and it's weird because it's not just college kids losing their minds. It's people that should know better.
Yeah, no, it's people who. Well, it has that sort of thing where people move here to sort of like lose their minds forever. Like people, it's
right.
a little bit
I'm
like
giving up.
Yeah,
let's go. I always thought I would go to the Cape. If I was going to give
we all
up.
have a different place to lose our minds.
Right. I was on the elevator here in the hotel last night, and I'm staying on 11.
Yeah.
And so
this is a nice room, by the way.
It's a very nice room. I'm in the business suite.
You are in the business suite,
but you're staying at the fancier hotel, which I am.
It's so. Here's the sad part about that. I know that's just the residual effect of totally biased. And if I'm to come back again, I will be here and
or
probably
the
not
Marriott.
in the business. Yeah.
It's what
They'll be like, near the airport is a great place to stay.
Well, what I always, line from Defending Your Life, that Albert Brooks.
That's one of my favorite movies.
It's so great. I always say, hey, who wants to come on over and help me paint it? So I was taking the elevator up. 7 people get on the elevator at 9. I'm on 11.
Yeah.
So, or 10 rather. And, they're drunk, and they're between the ages of like 27 and 70. 7 different people, and they're all together, and they're like, "We're going to 12." And I said, "All right." And then they keep stopping. They're like, "No, Jim, come with us. No, Larry, come with us." And I was like, and finally, I just had to yell at them. I was like, "Jesus Christ, you guys! I have one more floor. You have to fucking let me go to one more floor." And they said, "Don't you want to come with us to 12 and party?" And I was like, "No, and I certainly don't want to party with you at 10.
Wow.
In this elevator. And they were not repentant at all.
Wow. That's something I would never do. You just did a lot of things with that story I would never do.
Yeah, I'm
good, and I'm happy. Good for you.
Middle-aged white lady. They would never cast me in something called Taken, because I think we all fear that woman because they know that middle-aged women are this close to losing their shit at any minute.
Well, it's funny because in my mind, like if I'm doing a show and if there's a black woman, say 50 or older, who's laughing hard, I really don't care what else is happening with anybody else. That's my totem of like, if that woman thinks this is funny, the rest of you can come along, but that's really because 50-year-old black women will just be like, ha, 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 like a Cape Fear laugh when they like really hear something funny.
Right.
And they don't care if anybody else is laughing.
No. There's a certain point where you're like, it really doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I've worked too hard.
I'm in the final stretch of this thing.
Yeah. And whatever I got or didn't get, you're not taking anything else from me.
Right.
Yeah.
It's, like I was talking to somebody, I said, in your 20s and 30s, you might want to kill yourself. Yeah. But in your 40s and 50s, you're like, I'm not going to kill myself, but I could die. Because I'm tired.
I had a good run.
And then I wouldn't have to finish the script.
Oh, yes.
So I think we all
exactly.
win.
Yes.
I was asking you what a couple of things that you dork out about.
Yeah.
And you said Rocky 2.
Yes.
Not Rocky.
No, I mean, it's Rocky's good.
Rocky's a good movie.
Rocky's a great movie. It's a great movie. Rocky 2 is a better movie.
Rocky 2 is a better movie
Absolutely,
than Rocky.
empirically.
He doesn't win at the end of Rocky.
Yes.
Which is one of the things people forget.
Yeah,
And
no,
it's a
he
great
doesn't.
movie.
It's a great movie. It's like a
Yes.
4-star movie.
Okay.
Rocky 2 is a 5-star movie.
5-star movie.
Yes.
I don't even remember Rocky 2.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
the thing. It's basically.
It's a rematch.
It's like it's a rematch, and it's basically like a reimagining of Rocky. It's really what it is. It's really like
It's like the studio
It's
got
as
a hold of.
if there was a 20-year difference, they would have called it a reimagining.
Okay.
You know, because it's basically the same exact story with some more elements that give it a little more emotional heft.
Okay.
Because Rocky,
Okay.
Yeah. I feel
No, please.
I know. I feel like this is the thing.
I haven't seen either of them in 15 to 25
Okay,
years.
like ever, then you are a bad American.
Right.
But here's the thing. Just in general, I don't get patriotic about 99% of things. Like, I don't watch the Olympics. I watch the events I like, but I don't get like,
Oh, right.
when people were watching I get really confused when people who I know don't give a shit about sports are excited about the Winter Olympics.
Right.
Like, people were like, I stayed up all night and watched some
Every-
curling and just like
right.
watch it. And I'm like, you don't care. But they get all patriotic in that one. So, but Rocky 4 will get me to be like, I'll slow clap at the end of Rocky 4.
4.
4. Yes. I
Is
like,
that the one with the Russian?
yeah, of course, yeah.
Okay,
Is that
all
the
right.
one with you know what? I would leave.
How many Rockies are there?
I mean, there's technically, in my mind, there's 4, but there's technically 6.
Okay, so he made 6 movies with the word Rocky in them.
Yeah,
and he's in
yeah.
every single one of them.
Yeah, he directed most of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right,
And he wrote all of them.
He wrote all
That's
of
what
them.
nobody understands. I mean, Sylvester Stallone. We've really, I mean, he's sort of done, he's got like a weird body dysmorphia thing and he's clearly got, I mean, but I feel like he's probably not, I mean, he's probably not a nice guy. He's been famous for a long time, rich for a long time. I don't
Right.
know him, but I would like to hug him if I give him a chance. But I've also learned, don't try to hug your heroes.
Wow, put that on a pillow. Don't try to hug your heroes.
I tried to,
You'll knock him off the pedestal if you hug him.
I asked Lou Ferrigno for a hug one time and it was a really awkward experience.
Yeah, that is awkward. I mean, the
Yeah.
thing is
I tried to say why I wanted a hug and he really it was at Comic-Con.
he is hearing him. Did you?
Well, no, I didn't. I think he
he's
heard
not
me.
an idiot. Yeah, he heard you.
No,
Okay.
yeah.
So
But-
okay, so Rocky 2,
Rocky 2 is a better.
Apollo, Rocky rematch. Am I correct?
It's a rematch, yes.
Now, why does it resonate more emotionally?
Because the Rocky 1 is like a 70s movie.
Okay.
I said Rocky 1, it's Rocky. But
Right.
Rocky, the original, is like a classic 70s, everything's the worst.
Yeah.
Like, it's very, like, Scorsese, like, we're Mean Streets, like,
Okay.
it's clearly he was inspired by
Serpico.
that. Yeah. Everything's the worst. Nothing ever gets better. If you ever try to achieve anything, life's gonna shit on you.
Okay.
And so all you can maybe find is love with one person.
Okay.
That's basically what the story, it's like, so even though he loses at the end, through the journey, he has found Adrian.
Okay.
I mean,
And
nobody
that's a
gives the
beautiful
Rocky movies
story.
credit enough for the love story, I think, in
Okay.
general. But yeah, so if you can just find love, one little piece of love with a person who really doesn't even talk for most of the movie, then you don't have to worry about whatever else happens.
Okay.
Whatever else happens, you'll be okay. So that's a great classic 70s story. Rocky 2 is about redemption, which is a better story. That's just a better story.
Why redemption? I mean, I don't even.
It's like the hero's journey. It's just a better.
Okay, so
it's just a better.
because he wins.
He loses. So the Rocky 2, it starts with him. The fight has just ended. It's funny that all the Rocky movies start at the very end of the last one. Like, it's a really.
really?
They all start with a montage of what happened in the previous movie,
Just in
and
case.
then take up. Yeah, it's really smart because if you like the Rocky movies, they're basically showing the final fight, and you're getting all excited,
Right.
And so it hypes you back in. You're like, Sylvester Stallone is kind of. I just think he's a genius in this really specific way.
Right. Well, you only need to be a genius in one thing.
No, you don't. I mean, the dude also created the Rambo franchise, so he's clearly like
Right.
He's
good at the thing that he's good at.
Yeah, Schwarzenegger has done a lot of movies, but he hasn't created franchises.
Right.
Of
He didn't create anything.
No.
Well, he created Schwarzenegger.
Yeah,
That's
he
what
created Schwarzenegger. Yeah, I mean, but so
It starts at the
it starts
end
with
of
it starts with a montage from the first Rocky movie. So you see Rocky lose, and then it picks up with them basically going to the hospital because it's very authentic to heavyweight to boxing. Like, boxers, they fight and then a lot of times they have to go to the hospital.
That makes total sense.
They do the press conference and it's like, and now can somebody take me to the hospital?
Right,
I've been beaten up for 45 minutes.
Oh so that never even occurred to me.
No, Muhammad Ali. That's because you'll
Sugar Ray Leonard. Doesn't matter what weight.
Doesn't matter what weight. They generally, even if they just go to the checked up, but a lot of times if it's a really brutal fight and a long fight, especially 70s fights for 15 rounds.
Wow.
You had been in a car accident, basically. You'd been in a 45-minute car accident.
Right, with another 220-pound man or whatever.
And just the sheer exhaustion of moving that long but also getting hit. So they go to the hospital and it's this frenzy of Rocky being just sort of happy that he sort of made it through and he found Adrian. He's sort of totally fine. And Apollo being asked, they ask Apollo if he wants to.
Does Apollo go to the same hospital?
They go to the same hospital, which is also
true.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's these. You got to see Rocky too. There's these scenes in the hospital of them talking to each other because what else are you going to do? They're not in the same room.
They're not.
They're not. They're just in different. There's in different rooms in the hospital.
Okay.
And so there's scenes of them interacting in the hospital in that way and it's really sort of these really small moments. Of Rocky goes in the room, goes, Apollo, I was going to ask you a question. And Apollo's out like that. What? Did you give me your best? Yeah, man. All right. I get goosebumps. And so it's a small story of this guy who goes through this life-changing event, but then basically tries to return to his normal life. But because he went through his life-changing event, people won't let him return to his normal life.
Right, because his life is no longer that life.
His life is no longer that life. And he just wants to and he's made some money from the fight. But then he finds out, and he doesn't want to fight anymore because he was beaten up. And
hardcore.
But he finds out that, so he's sort of basically I'm not going to fight anymore. But I've made some money. But it's kind of like a classic story of any success. You don't make as much money as you think you've made.
Right.
So then he tries to trade on his fame. People are like, you want to do commercials? To do commercials. And there's this brutal scene of him trying to do commercial, and it becomes clear that he's functionally illiterate.
Right.
So he can't read the cue cards.
Like Brett Favre.
Yeah.
No.
I was I just co-signed on something I had no idea.
Well, no, I don't know if you've ever tried to see Brett Favre do a commercial, but it's never, I don't think he's functionally illiterate.
Yeah.
I think he's functionally terrible actor.
Well, yeah. It's just that weird thing where it's the same, it's the same thing where it's I thought it reminds me of that Mitch Hedberg joke. You're a comedian? Yeah, can you write screenplays? You're a cook. Do you also farm?
Right. I need you to do something adjacent, but nothing like what you do.
And so there's this brutal scene where he gets mocked while he's trying to make this commercial because he's trying to make easy money. Because he doesn't want to box anymore. And he thinks, I'll be in a commercial, and he can't do it. And they're making fun of him, and Adrian stands up for him, and the guy throws him off the set. Wow. And then he has to go basically get a job at the same meatpacking plant that in the first movie he was boxing at with the classic scene. He has to go get a job there scrubbing the floors of the meatpacking plant. Okay. After he's been called, he's just fought the heavyweight champion of the world.
Right.
And within a couple months he's scrubbing the floors of, it's a total
oh, this seems way too real.
It's like you as a comic
very
you're like
1981.
As a comic as a guy whose show just got canceled, I have considered scrubbing the floors of a meatpacking plant.
Right. It's a Tribble run. You know that Dave Tribble once said to me?
Yes.
He said, I meet comics on the way up. And on the way down. And I was like, oh, well, then I'll be back.
Yeah. He's like,
you'll be back.
Oh, you'll be back. Yeah. So he has to basically.
So he has to do that.
He has to totally and he's sort of an egoless guy, but even his egolessness, he has to sort of keep sublimating it for the fact that he can't, it's like that thing he went through. It's like he went through this big experience. It's like an American Idol winner. You win. Now you can have a career. Your album tanked. You're done. So he's done. And now he's scrubbing the floor. And then he gets laid off from the meatpacking plant. Okay. Because they
laid people off.
It's the 70s.
Right.
And then he gets a job. He has to beg for a job at the boxing gym where he had trained in the previous movie to take on Apollo.
Wow.
He has to beg Mickey, the guy who was his trainer, to hire him, and he's basically dumping out spit buckets and cleaning towels in front of guys who were like, you were the guy who just fought Apollo Creed, the greatest heavyweight champion of all time. And he sort of has to, and he has no ego about it, but people keep shitting on him.
Right.
And other boxers are making fun of him.
Right.
Because they're like, you're nothing. And he gets totally...
Which is what the first movie was. I mean,
and that's the thing. But the first movie, he didn't really realize he was getting shit on because he was a guy who had no expectations of himself.
Right. And so we watched that going, oh, well, he's clearly going to rise above this. He's clearly going to rise above this. And in the second movie, I bet you're watching it going, oh,
yeah,
this is just what life is going to be like for him.
But he has the knowledge of like, I fought the champion.
Okay.
But I actually don't want to fight him again because it was the hardest thing I ever did. and I was in the hospital and he doesn't,
Right.
and so he's sort of like, he doesn't want to box anymore because it's so hard. And he's sort of, but trying to figure out where his life is. And so he goes back to the gym and he's trying to, by the way, I should have said spoiler alert.
Oh yeah. 37-year-old movie.
Yeah,
it's okay.
yeah.
And Rosebud's it's different.
So he basically is at the point where and Adrian has to get a job back at the same pet shop where he met her in the first movie.
Okay.
Because they're not rich.
Right. And so she has to go back to work
And he
too.
buys all this expensive stuff and he has to basically, he buys this Trans Am because it's the 70s, a black
Right,
Trans Am.
sure.
He has to ask his friend Paulie, Adrian's brother, to take the payment for the Trans Am. And Paulie's like, do you need me to lend you some money? This guy who.
Right.
Rocky had been all like, look at how rich I am.
Yeah, yeah.
And so it's this total like, he basically gets, and he's getting so crushed. Now at the same time, we go to Apollo Creed.
Yeah.
Apollo Creed, who first of all is one of the greatest screen villains of all time, doesn't get enough credit for the fact that like, I feel like and one of the most, developed, is the black characters of all time. Like he's not just one note.
No.
Like, he goes from being this villain to and he's a boxer. He's sort of this mix of like Muhammad Ali, but also like, I don't know. He's like Muhammad Ali was smart, but he's like they basically made a smarter, more educated Muhammad Ali.
Right. And more business savvy.
More business savvy. So like
Yeah.
he basically is so Apollo Creed at the same time we cut to his house and he's getting letters from people saying that Rocky beat you. You let the race down. And this is the 70s, so, the race. And so it's right after the 60s.
So it's sad.
So it's sad. Yeah. So he's getting these letters about how that bum carried you, you let the race down, he didn't beat you, you couldn't beat him again. And Apollo, who didn't want a rematch, I was like, I have to fight him again.
Right, because I
have to show people that I can beat this guy.
Right.
And so he basically, drums up this campaign to get Rocky to fight him, and Rocky doesn't want to fight him because he's like, I lost.
You did indeed.
Because Rocky thinks, you did win. He has
understand.
It's not the response that you normally think. He's like, no, you won. I was in the hospital for days. Like,
right? How are they kidding?
Yeah, and even though I'm working at the old gym, bumped out spit buckets, I had a good run.
Yeah, it was
But basically, Apollo, so demoralizes Rocky in the press and sort of takes his manhood away that Rocky decides to fight him.
Oh yeah.
And then he goes to Mickey. I feel like I'm a 5-year-old telling the plot of a movie.
No, it's good.
So anyway, he goes to Mickey and like Mickey says, I don't want to train you. You're not actually that good.
Right.
it's his whole thing. Like he keeps being shit on. Like as Mickey's like, if I train, you're going to lose again because you're not actually a good boxer.
And I guess the boxing that Rocky was good at, and I think that I've read enough fiction where there were boxers in it, that there are guys that can just stand there and take a beating, and you can't win because you cannot knock that man down.
Yeah, no, and it's weird. I had a Rocky tweet the other day about I feel like maybe Rocky would be better at boxing if he spent more time sparring and less time running up mountains and chasing chickens. Like, because there's that whole side of the Rocky movies too, where the training sequences where it's like he spends very little time actually boxing other people.
Right, he doesn't. He's not actually working on his footwork.
No. It's a lot of like catch this chicken, chop this tree down, lift this weird thing,
weird log.
Yeah, there's a lot of like extracurricular things that aren't actually boxing training. So Mickey doesn't want to train him, but then Mickey agrees to, and the whole thing is like, and then it's just a better story because you get to see somebody go from what is the top all the way back down and then all the way back up again.
Okay. And
it has one of my favorite. This is funny. Me and my wife, I don't know if we've gotten fights over this, but I'm like, that's what I want you to do to me. I mean, like,
right?
There's a scene in the movie. Oh, and I'd say Adrian gets pregnant.
Right.
She has the baby, but she falls into a coma after the baby. I mean, it's just classic.
Oh my God.
She falls into a coma. So
I will say this about Sylvester Stallone is that he does love a trope.
Yes.
Yeah, that is a guy.
He's working all the angles.
Right.
He's not leaving. There's no trope left unturned. So she falls into a coma. The baby comes. It happens in the middle of Rocky training for the fight.
Right.
So he doesn't want to train anymore because he's more in love with Adrian than he is and interested in taking this fight.
Right.
Mickey's like, you're really going to lose now because you're not training.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm not leaving the hospital room till I know Adrian's okay. Do you want to meet the baby? No, we're going to meet the baby together. I mean, it's really like,
Oh, he won't even meet the baby because they want him.
He wants to wait till, yeah. Look,
Wow,
do you
that
understand?
actually.
Yeah.
That's,
And so he's like, I don't want, and Sylvester Stallone's a great actor in that role. Like, he really knows how to sort of make it a really sort of like intimate, and it's really,
Yeah.
like it's a 70s movie, so there's a lot of intimacy in it. So Adrian, so then he's waiting in the hospital. Mickey finally says, like, there's this scene in a chapel in the hospital where Mickey says, look, if you want to stay here and end up losing that fight, I will sit here with you and we will go lose that fight. Like, I'm not going
Okay.
to yell at you anymore.
Okay.
I'll just sit by you while you sit by Adrian.
Right.
And we'll lose the fight.
we'll lose the fight.
Yeah, we'll just, and Rocky, so then of course there's a montage because it's a 70s movie.
Right.
Adrian comes out of the coma.
Right.
It's that scene where it's like she's laying in the bed and suddenly he's holding her hand and suddenly her finger moves. Yeah, and it's like,
yeah.
also, here's the thing about the Rocky movies. The greatest, most iconic theme music in the history of cinema.
Yes.
You cannot play. We could play that right now, and we would both get like dun 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 dun
Right.
dun. We'd start to like jump up
Like,
a little
I gotta
bit.
get some shit
start
done.
Start to shadow box, and they use that move. They use that music in many different ways throughout the movie. So sometimes it's very sort of like dun dun. It's very like.
Like in the Brady Bunch when
Yeah.
they played the theme really slow when they
Yes.
were on the seesaw
Exactly.
contest.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
Sure,
So
sure.
they
Slow it down when it's a roller skate backwards
a
moment.
leitmotif. Yes.
Yes. All right.
And so, like, in the hospital, Adrian has to come around. They start to play like a very sort of lyrical, orchestrated version.
Yes.
And she comes out of it. And then this is my favorite scenes, probably my number one favorite scene in the history of movies. So she comes out of the coma. There's a montage. They bring the baby in.
Yeah.
What do you want to name the baby? And Paulie's like, what about Paulie? And Rocky's like, that's a pretty good name. And then Adrian says, what about Rocky? And they're like, and so they name the baby Rocky. Take the
They
baby
named
out.
the baby Rocky.
Name the baby Rocky. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Even Rocky's like, is that a good idea?
That seems like that's not a name.
No, it's not a
That's
name.
a nickname.
It's a nickname, yeah.
Yeah, that's you got to earn the name Rocky.
Yeah, it's which in the later
All right.
movies you find out his son doesn't. But it's not, I don't really want to go there.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. But
Okay.
so Adrian's like, and Adrian had been against Rocky fighting again.
Yeah.
Because he's like, you got hurt. You're not a good boxer.
she's
It's not
like,
explicit,
no.
but the basically like, you're not a good boxer.
Right, this isn't.
So he said, so there's this scene where she comes out of the coma and he says, so Adrian, if you don't want me mixing it up with Creed anymore, I don't have to do it. We'll figure something out. I don't have to do it. You know, I understand you. I've worked on it for years. And so she says, and so she says, and she's still in the hospital bed. She's like, Rocky, there's only one thing I want you to do. And he's like, what? She's like, come here. And he leans forward and he goes, win. And then the music goes dun 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 dun. dun. And then he goes, well, what are we waiting for? Let's go.
The end.
And it goes immediately to a training, to the like dun 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 dun, dun push ups, one arm, dun 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 dun, running through the streets, dun 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 dun, doing sit ups, dun 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 dun, in a junkyard for no reason, dun dun dun. Like, and so it immediately jumping over things, like it immediately goes through the training sequence. Which I mean, if you have any blood in your body at all, and a heart that's beat, you can't help but be like, yeah. And so it immediately goes to that. It's the training sequence, which again, you can't resist that music and Rocky,
Right.
and then that training sequence ends. He's back at home, and this is all like this 70s montage-y. There's very little dialogue. This might be a 4-hour thing I gotta go through. So, So then he's at home with the new baby. He's rocking the baby. He's about to go for a run. He puts the baby down. They do the most subtle. I had to point this out to Kevin Avery because I had to push the Rocky movies on him, and he's a fan now. Kevin Avery.
Okay.
I
know
one
Kevin
of the head
Avery.
writers.
Yeah.
He was the head writer of Totally Biased. And they do this thing where I swear it happens. You have to really be, where he puts the baby in the crib and and he turns the mobile on, and the mobile plays a like tinky version of the Rocky theme.
Oh my God.
For the first couple notes that you're like, wait, what? And it's gone.
Yeah.
But I absolutely know they did it on purpose. It's not an accident. So then Rocky goes out for this run. Now this is the iconic Rocky movie run where he runs through the streets of Philadelphia and ends up being chased by kids.
Okay.
And runs all the way. Like the first one, he runs up the steps by himself.
Yeah.
But this movie, he runs up the steps with all the children of Philadelphia.
Pied Piper.
And this is where he's jumping up and they're all like, Rocky. And then he goes to the boxing match and then he beats. I mean, at that point, it's just all. It's the thing. He beats him. It's a 15-round fight that goes both. That goes.
What did you want? You want your wife to whisper the word "win"?
Yes, I would like to every night before I go on stage. Like, if you don't want me doing stand-up comedy anymore, Melissa, I don't have to do it. I could get a job and go back to college. Right. There's only one thing I want you to do. Kill. Dun, 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 dun. And my wife certainly does that in ways, but I want that exact. She certainly has been more than supportive and believes in, and actually thinks I'm funny, which is not something that I've noticed that not every comic has that in their life. The person they're with who actually gives a shit about what they do.
Right. It is nice. I was just in Hong Kong and, I got an email from this guy who, long email about how nice it was because he did a tourist thing with us all day long. And he said, it was really nice watching Andy watch you do stand-up comedy. He clearly heard the jokes before, but he laughed again.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, he's incredibly supportive.
I've certainly seen it when it's not that. And it just feels like I couldn't imagine being
married to
some person who's like, yeah, you do comedy. Like, yeah, you're a plumber,
right.
And my wife, really actually has certainly, she's a modern dancer, so she has helped my movement on stage and critiqued it and sort of helped me sort of figure out just don't pace unless you're actually doing it for a reason,
right? And
which I still do sometimes, but she's like stay centered, and then also has certainly contributed more than her fair share of tags.
Oh yeah,
and has certainly
and it's just funny herself.
It's funny herself and
creates material just by being with you.
And also will help me sort of when I'm sort of, she can tell I'm riffing something out. She'd be like, and I'll be like, yeah. And then sometimes she's like,
do you
realize that's I was like, dude. And sometimes I'll totally forget. Was that really you? Yeah, that was you. Yeah, that was me. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
So it's like, and so then he and so there's two more things I'll say about this, and then we can stop.
Oh yeah,
about it. But,
no.
So. It does have a fatal flaw, which I hear all great art has a fatal flaw.
Sure. Well, how will you know it's perfect unless it's got
something?
Yes.
The end. So it's got this again another not it's iconic, but a famous scene in the movie is that the end. The fight is a 15-round fight, goes back and forth. Anybody could win. Da, da, da. And then at the last round of the fight, Rocky hits Apollo. Apollo goes down. Both Rocky and Apollo fall to the ground.
Okay.
And the ref is standing over both of them counting 1, and they're both trying to climb up. And it's sort of, the implication is that whoever climbs up first is the winner, or whoever climbs up first is the winner because the other guy's still down.
Okay.
But in actuality, that's not how boxing works. If you hit a guy, if you're just standing in the ring and you fall and nobody hit you, they'll just say, get up.
Oh, okay.
And so Rocky knocks Apollo out, and basically it's through the sheer force of his punch.
Yeah.
They both fall to the ground. But it's not like the ground is like, well, if you're on the ground, you're losing.
Right.
It's no, you can go, they would just be like, they would stop like, hey, Rocky, you get up whenever you want to. They would be counting over Apollo.
Oh, right.
Rocky, you can stay, you just slipped. You lay down. You've had a hard few weeks. But Apollo, we're counting over you, but the implication is
because you got punched in the face.
But Sylvester Stallone, it's more dramatic to have them both sort of crawling up the rope, and then Apollo just slumps down, and Rocky gets all the way up, and the arena explodes. It's just more dramatic, but it's not how boxing works. And the boxing in Rocky.
And that's the flaw that people point out.
It's just as a boxing fan, because I actually have been a fan of boxing. I'm like, it was years later. I watched as a kid and kept watching as an adult, became a fan of boxing probably due to the Rocky movies of Muhammad Ali. And then later watched Rocky, like, hey, wait a second.
Wait, why
that's not actually how it works. That's not actually how. And everybody points out who's a fan of boxing. The actual physical boxing in Rocky movies is not good boxing.
Okay,
it's just basically it's like a bar fight where one guy swings and another guy swings.
Yeah,
and another guy. There's nobody ever dodges a punch. Nobody ever jabs. Nobody ever works the body. It's all headshots and
right.
It's not. It's more dramatic. But but it's like and then my other favorite thing about the Rocky movie, and this is my own uber geek moment that I've pointed out to other people. It happens during the training sequence when he's running and the kids all are running with him.
Yeah.
There's this part where So the kids are running with him through the city, and there's a part where it's like a wide shot, and Rocky's running with the kids, like a group of kids, and then like the music shifts, and the idea was like, this is when Rocky's going to break away from the kids. Like they're all running with him, but this is when Rocky's going to totally like hit overdrive. So it's like, and the music changes, and Sylvester Stallone starts like really pumping, and he breaks away, and you can see there's this one kid in a red jacket who looks at the camera. And you can see that he knows the camera's breaking away with Stallone. Yeah. And he starts running like full on. And for a little bit, he keeps up with him. And then Sylvester Stallone smoke. And it's just like, I was like, that kid is awesome. Like, you can see him running, and you can see him look at the camera like, oh, here it is. And he starts like really, and
it made the movie?
It made the movie. Yeah. I mean, you have to really have watched it like 1,000 times. And really, it's not something that you would see right off, but it's just clear if you watch it again. Like every time I watch it, he clearly turns the camera, looks and goes, oh, they're breaking away. He was trying to stay up with Sylvester Stallone, and he couldn't because Sylvester Stallone was a highly trained athlete at that point.
Right at that point, and the kid's 11.
And the kid's 11. But if I ever, like, you have those weird show business, like if I ever got big enough to just sort of, like, I do the work I do, and I enjoy the work I do, and I think, but if I ever got to like, well, I've done all that I can do.
Right.
I would totally do like a deconstruction of the Rocky 2 movie and try to find that kid and try to talk to
like a little kind of a Travel Channel kind of let's do this.
Yes, do this. Let's break this down to its basic elements. I'm a big fan of breaking things down to their base elements, and I would try to find that kid and be like, you did that, right? That's what happened.
Right. Do you remember that?
Because he's probably the same age as I am. Like he's right. He's not.
I wonder what that guy is doing.
Yeah, but it's just clear that he was like, oh no, you're not leaving me behind. And every time I point it out to people, they go, yeah, you can totally see that.
Oh, that's hilarious.
So yeah,
that is great. Now, what the heck? We're at the halfway point. Let's talk about the other, because I like that they're both sort of fighting. There's a theme. Somebody likes a fight movie, and it's a triumph. It's kind of triumph of the will kind of thing. It's because Bruce Lee.
Yes.
Is the other now, and I
Bruce Lee was basically my stepdad. Is how I look at it. Like I grew up with mostly my mom and saw my dad in the summers. Yeah, and Bruce Lee was there the rest of the time.
The rest of the time, being a man,
showing me how to be a man,
right? How to stand up for yourself.
Things. Yeah, yes. And I took martial arts for a long time, basically because of Bruce Lee, and also feeling like so I could stand up for myself.
What martial art does Bruce Lee know? Do you know?
Yeah.
You're gonna know. Yeah, you're gonna get this. I have a picture of myself with a Bruce Lee statue from Hong Kong last week.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Where and Andy was like, pose like Bruce Lee. We're both gonna pose like Bruce Lee. And I was like, I don't know how to pose like Bruce Lee. And he said, look at the statue.
Yeah, do with
the arms.
I would imagine they froze him in an iconic pose. He wasn't just. His shirt was probably off.
His shirt was off.
He wasn't like just wearing a business suit. Waving.
Right. He had a bespoke business suit from Kowloon.
Why did they put Bruce Lee on a surfboard in a business suit? That's weird. That's not what he did.
Right, he's hanging out with Mickey Mouse.
Yeah.
No, but it was a cool statue. Anyway.
He's a cool dude.
I've never seen a Bruce Lee movie.
Well, the hard part about Bruce Lee movies are kind of like, if you were to sit down and watch a Bruce Lee movie now, I feel like you would have the same sort of feeling as if you were to sit down and listen to like what's his name? God, I can't believe I'm blanking. Lenny Bruce album.
Oh, right.
Like where it's the great, everybody tells you he's the guy, he influenced everybody. It's where modern comedy started. But if you listen to a Lenny Bruce album, which I have on occasion, it's kind of like listening to algebra. Because the references don't make sense anymore. Because it's like it's like if you listen to a Patton Oswalt album in 50 years, people are gonna be like, because it's just there's so many references.
Now I have there's
not that Patton's not fun. There's just the idea.
But there's two. I did listen to a Lenny Bruce album in an effort. I did two of them, and one of them was funny and it kind of carried.
Yeah.
And the other one was actually him just whining forever about the court trial forever. Yeah. But the experience I had was Richard Pryor.
Oh, okay.
Which had been hacked so bad.
You know what? That's probably the better example is Richard Pryor. It's probably because
I was like, okay, this has been covered. I mean, these are funny jokes, but I've heard 19 people do some variation on this theme.
Richard Pryor's probably that's that because his blueprint still exists through people.
Yeah.
And so. Yeah, so it'd be like, to me, it's like, so if you watched.
Other people have done
it, and other people have like sort of, without him, they couldn't do what they did, but when you watch what they do, it looks like, it's the same thing with Richard Pryor. You feel like, oh, I've already seen a better version of this.
Right.
Like
or
Jet
an
Li
updated.
or, I mean, basically, Matt Damon in the Bourne Identity movies is doing a better version of it in some
Oh,
sense.
really?
Because they just know how to shoot it in a more exciting way.
Okay.
They actually know how to make people who don't know how to fight at all look like they can fight now, which Bruce Lee actually knew. Like back then, the only people who basically did that were the people who were actually somewhat skilled at it.
What years?
And back then,
when did Bruce Lee make those movies?
Bruce Lee made, people who don't know Bruce Lee really don't, he only made 4 movies in his lifetime that he finished.
Okay.
And then there was one more that he was halfway through that they then recut up and released after he died.
Okay.
And that was basically he was 1971 to 73 and then he died. So over the course of 2 years, he made 4 movies.
Okay.
All of which were Hong Kong movies, except the last one was a co-production, Enter the Dragon.
Weird.
And so there's this idea that he made and as a kid I thought this, he made thousands of movies because after he died, suddenly all these Chinese dudes became these sort of like Bruce Lai, Bruce Li, Bruce Liang, Dragon Lee, Little Dragon, and they all sort of like had the same haircut. And as a kid I would watch like Kung Fu Saturday on TV and I would think I was watching Bruce Lee movies.
Right.
And then when I finally like
it was essentially the name of the genre to some extent.
Yeah, Bruce Lee movies. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah,
it was like blaxploitation movies.
Yeah.
Bruce Lee movies, gangster movies, and Bruce Lee movies. And so he only made 4 movies, but they changed. I mean, The Matrix is Bruce Lee movie. Like that's a great example. The Matrix is doing a better job of it, even though none of those people know how to fight.
Right.
But they know how to they have wires now that they lift your leg up and they
Crouching Tiger,
torque it up and
Dragon,
And so it's more exciting. So if you watch them, they're sort of slow now.
Yeah. Okay.
Even though back then they were fast.
Right, the pacing was different.
They feel a little bit hokey, but I can sit down and watch them now. But it's that thing where if I sit down and watch, I can't watch them with somebody who's like, I've never seen a Bruce Lee movie because they're going to be like,
you're not going to really see what I saw when I was 11 or 10.
What I saw when I was 11 or what the world saw when it was 1972. And also, there's also a big component to Bruce Lee where it's like, there were other martial arts movies before him, but his martial arts movies sort of basically gave like Chinese people and Asian people like an international hero,
right?
Who at a time when it was like they didn't have one before, that's why there's a statue of him,
right? That's why he became
that guy internationally known at a time when he was in Hollywood. I mean, it's also the Hollywood story. He was in Hollywood trying to sell his services. And they were like, I don't know if people want to see an Asian guy fight people or be on. I don't know if they want to see an Asian guy on TV doing things.
Right, at all.
Unless he's like the cook or
we have Jack Sue.
The funny assistant.
He's the only guy that we're working with.
And there was because there was the Green Hornet show, which was like this sort of a spin-off of Batman.
Okay.
And Bruce Lee was Kato on the Green Hornet television show.
Oh, I don't. Yeah.
And it only lasted like a season or two. It was short-lived, but it was one of those things where like. Bruce Lee was the best part of the show.
All right.
It was like Bruce Lee, Van Williams was the guy who played the Green Hornet, who was supposed to be the superhero, and Kato was his sidekick. But Bruce Lee's like doing jumping, spinning kicks in the air and spinning around.
Yeah.
And Van Williams is like the classic 70s action actor who's like just throwing the slow punch. Like he's like a Shatner.
Right. Right. He was all posing.
These awkward posing punches.
Yeah.
And it's like, so Bruce Lee had to leave Hollywood and went back home to Hong Kong and became an international superstar. And this is what happened. They showed reruns of the Green Hornet in China, and the show was called the Kato Show.
Okay.
And he went back home to Hong Kong and found out he was famous. He was like, oh, like there was a plane, like here comes Kato.
Yeah.
And the show had been on the air for like 2 years, and then he made 4 movies, and the martial art he did he started out in a martial art called Wing Chun, which I trained in, which is a very sort of very specific version of martial arts. Like it's not
karate, it's not jujitsu,
it's like kung fu.
Judo.
There's thousands of versions of kung fu.
Okay.
And and so they all can be very, very different.
Mm-hmm.
And so Wing Chun is a very it's actually mostly for self-defense, and it's a very close-up fighting style. There's no high kicks.
Okay.
Usually if you kick, you're kicking.
Well, what was he doing then when he was kicking?
You kick someone's knee to try to break it.
Right. Yeah.
But then
you disable.
But then Bruce Lee came he had to leave Hong Kong because he got in trouble with the fighting, and he was a street fighter as a kid.
Okay.
Had too many street fights. Had been born in San Francisco, so his parents we're going to send you back to San Francisco because streets is hot.
Right.
And his dad was actually a famous Hong Kong actor. And so Bruce Lee was in movies as a kid, as a child actor. So his family was like, we're sending you back to San Francisco so the streets is too hot. And then over here, because he wasn't around the instructors anymore. He sort of adapted his own fighting style.
Okay.
And figured out a better way to execute what he wanted to do. And then the movies was about all the high kicking and acrobatics.
So did he do that in San Francisco? Did he live in San Francisco?
He lived in San Francisco. He had a martial arts school in Oakland.
Okay.
And then he also he went to college in Seattle and taught in Seattle, had a school in Seattle. He's buried in Seattle.
Oh, is he?
Yeah. I went and saw his grave when I went, like the second time I went to Seattle. I'm not a grave guy, but
Right. Tom Rhodes, grave guy. Came on and Dork Forest did about
I've seen it. I've seen the pictures on his website.
Yeah, that's so weird.
I'm not a grave guy, but I was like, I just feel like I should see. And then his son Brandon is buried right next to him. And you're just like,
the crow, right?
The crow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
it's a
sad thing. Yeah. It's like, yeah, I can't imagine. His daughter's a little bit older than Bruce Lee's daughter. And as a teenager, I was like, maybe I can marry his daughter.
Right. Cause he was so cool. So just 4 movies.
Just 4.
Cause I watched not all of them. I've seen probably a half a dozen Jackie Chan movies.
Oh yeah. I'm not a Jackie Chan fan.
Okay. Now what is the difference? Jackie Chan was funny.
That's the difference.
Okay.
And that's Jackie Chan admittedly has said in interviews many times. He said, Bruce Lee was like about defending the manhood of China, defending like Chinese masculinity. Because at that point in history, in the entertainment, Chinese masculinity was considered not.
Oh, right.
And so he was about like fuck you.
Right.
I'm not going to take shit anymore, and I'm going to kill everybody.
Right. I'm going to kill everybody. I'm not going to be the sidekick.
I'm not going to be the sidekick.
Yeah.
And so early Jackie Chan movies, there are ones where he's sort of doing a Bruce Lee thing.
Yeah.
And he very, very quickly realized, I can't be that guy. And so he actively took it another direction.
Yeah.
But I'm more of a fan of I'm not going to be shit on anymore.
Right.
So it's a more serious, there's comical elements to it, but it's a more serious, Walking Tall, and all the Bruce Lee movies have basically the same plot where there's always this element of him being like the new guy in town.
Okay.
Who people know he can fight, but he doesn't want to fight.
Sure.
He's like,
it's the gunfighter thing.
They're Westerns. They're totally Westerns. I don't want to fight. He sort of gets pushed to fight. He's like, I don't want to fight. I'd rather not fight. Finally, they beat up enough of his loved ones around him. Right. He's like, all right. And then he doesn't stop fighting for the last 30 minutes of the movie. It's just like, then he's going to fight everybody. And then and then at the end of every Bruce Lee movie, which is also a very interesting thing that doesn't happen, because I think Bruce Lee had a moral code. The hero either gets arrested or killed or is just alone at the end. Okay. So, because revenge doesn't do anything. It doesn't help you. So Fist of Fury, which is the first one, he gets a Chinese, the titles they're different titles, we'll say. So some Bruce Lee geeks can be like, that's not the right. So the Big Boss, I'll go by their Chinese titles so I can sound cool. The Big Boss, he gets arrested. Yeah. Because he beats up too many people and kills too many people. Okay. But he's doing it because this drug dealer is basically destroying this town. Okay. So Big Boss, he gets arrested. Fist of Fury, which is the second one, but in America, Fist of Fury is the first one. It's all stupid. Fist of Fury, the Japanese are picking on his martial arts school. Okay. He's the star pupil, and they kill his teacher. And they're beating up all the people in the martial arts school. And it's a very Chinese versus Japanese thing. Okay. There's a sign at one point where there's a part in the movie where he's trying to walk into a place and they point to a sign that no Chinese or dogs allowed. Oh. And it's a very and there's a point in the movie where he sort of defends China. He's like, we are Chinese. We are not sick men. And apparently theaters in Hong Kong were like, ah! And so I got a little goosebumpy there myself. It's like, I tell you, I could show you some goosebump trailers. I'll just show you the parts of the movies where you get goosebumps. And at that end of that movie, after he's killed everybody who needs to be killed, he walks out and there's a huge crowd of people cheering him and there's the police who have the guns trained on him, ready to arrest him. And instead of being arrested, he runs straight at the guns and jumps, and you hear gunshots go off. And you don't see him, but the idea is that clearly is that he's and then suicide by cop. Then there's Return of the Way of the Dragon, which is the one he directed. That one. It's just at the end of the movie. It's the one where he fights Chuck Norris. Oh, okay. Yeah, where Bruce Lee is totally responsible for Chuck Norris. Okay. I'm sorry. No. It's I don't know anything about Chuck Norris. I think of him as sort of a poor man's Ted Nugent? Rich man's Ted Nugent? Well, no, he's become that. He was at one point a poor man's Bruce Lee. He's always been a poor man's everything. But He was, now he's a poor man's Ted Nugent. He's probably richer than Ted Nugent though,
Right.
but, cause Walker, Texas Ranger is still here somewhere.
Right.
But so Bruce Lee trained with Chuck Norris and brought him into the movie, and Bruce Lee was 5'7", and so Chuck Norris is probably over 6 feet tall. So it's this classic, like, little guy beat up the big guy. And
that's the movie. Little guy beats up the big guy because Chuck Norris is the bad guy in the movie?
Chuck Norris, he's hired by the bad guy to beat up Bruce Lee.
Okay.
Like it's funny. He's probably the best opponent Bruce Lee had in the movie. He definitely is. But he basically, again, it's the Japanese people again. It's the Italian, it's in Italy, it's set in Rome. And the Italian mob is trying to horn in on this Chinese restaurant. They bring in Bruce Lee from the old country to come help them.
Right.
First, he doesn't want to fight. And they're like, but we brought you here to fight.
Yeah.
But he's like, we can probably solve this some other way. Eventually, he has to fight. He kills everybody. And at the end, they're like, thank you for helping us. And he just sort of walks off into the sunset.
Okay.
In the classic Western, like.
Oh, classic. He's just like, now he's alone.
I'm done. I've fought. I've killed everybody. I can't stay here. So.
Right.
And then, Enter the Dragon just sort of ends with him slumped up against I've killed everybody. And then the movie ends like there's no joy. There's not usually, there's kind of love interest, but it never ends well with the love interest.
That's an interesting, that's interesting that he has no interest in, cause he's like, yes, there is fighting and yes, this needs to be done, but there's no triumph in it. No,
I think Bruce Lee had a moral code that like fighting is like the last resort that you take. And there's only survival. There's not winning.
Right. Interesting.
And so his fighting style off screen was a very sort of brutal, get the fight over as quickly as possible.
Right.
Not high kicks, not fancy screams. Like in the movies, he's all like big high kicks, lots of fancy screams.
Yep.
But in real life, it's like, bite his throat out and keep moving.
Right.
Poke his eyes out, kick him in the nuts, and then go about your day. Why we gotta sit here all day?
Right. Somebody was telling me there was the difference between, little boys who fight and little girls who fight.
Oh.
Is like little boys will fight and then there'll be a winner and a loser, and little girls will fight and it'll be to kill the other child.
Yeah, everybody loses.
Right.
Yes,
everybody loses, and you're just like, no, I have to destroy you. And you're like, I remember that from when I was a little kid. I was like, and I wasn't a big fighter.
Yeah. But no, it's because I think I think it's societal. Like boys are raised to fight. There's a winner and a loser, but also there's that weird thing where then they'll go have a drink together.
Right. And they're sort of socialized,
socialized
from
to
a
fight.
very early.
And I think with women, you're socialized to not fight. So if you fight, it must be the end of time. It must be the end of days. There's no, one of us is going to be eliminated at this point because we're socialized to not do this.
Right.
So
We're not supposed to do this.
We're not supposed to do this. And I sort of feel like I was socialized like a girl because I was like, I don't want to. And so I was sort of picked on as a kid. And so when I discovered Bruce Lee and I discovered Bruce Lee movies and I started taking karate and then I took Taekwondo, but then I moved to Chicago and found a school that taught Wing Chun, which is Bruce Lee's original style. And I just went all in.
Yeah.
And sort of like did it kind of anonymously, like nobody, I did a lot, but I would go to school and nobody knew I was doing it. And then there was this one day where we had there was every year they'd have like an arts festival where we would invite people in to show arts things. And so I invited my martial arts instructor and to do a demonstration, and I did it with him.
Yeah.
And it was like, things changed for me at the school after that. Because he also set it up for like, we're going to let you do some things to just sort of establish
alert the
masses. 'Cause I was just sort of always quiet, and so people would sometimes shit on me just because I was quiet, and then I would just be like, that's shitty, but I didn't even I just didn't want to. I don't want to fight you. I don't want to get involved in this. Why are you being shitty?
Right.
That's generally that informs my comedy. Why are you being shitty?
Right. And then you step away from whatever horrible thing is happening. When I was a kid, I was spooky reading girl. And later people were like, you never did anything. You never talked to anyone. And then whenever anyone would push me around and stuff, I'd be like, what's happening?
Exactly. I have the same feeling. Why are we doing this?
I didn't do anything to you. I didn't even talk to you, which was, I think, what drove them mad.
Yes.
Because they were just like, well, I'm cool. Why aren't you addressing that?
I have a very similar story. I went to a lot of different schools and I lived with my mom mostly, but I lived with my dad for 2.5 years at one point. And I went to this school, this Catholic private school in Alabama. Because if you're in private school in Alabama, it's probably a Catholic school.
Right.
This is how it works. And so I went to this my freshman year of high school, and there was like the 3 different tracks of the school where like if you're in the track 1, you were basically an all sort of advanced classes.
Oh,
You're
right.
in track 2, you're where the bulk of the high school is.
Right.
And if you're in track 3, I don't know
Shop.
I don't know. I don't actually know what that was because
Right.
because I'd gone to a lot of private schools in my life, I knew how to take standardized tests for it. So I always
Yeah.
ended up in track 1 just 'cause
Yep.
whether I was smart enough, it's like, I just wasn't afraid of a standardized test, which is a lot of why they think a lot of public school kids are stupid is because they don't know how to take standardized tests because they don't
Yes.
teach them. Whereas I went to schools where like you would take a lot of practice standardized tests
Yep.
just so you didn't freak out.
Yeah. You're like, I know how to fill in
I know how to fill in
damn
the bubble.
circles.
I'm not afraid of the Scantron.
Yeah.
I'm not like, what is this? Why has everything changed on this one day?
Right.
So I was in all track 1 classes and because of that and because it's Alabama and stuff, I was one of the only, I don't know if I was the only black kid I saw in all of my classes. Like there would be one or two, like there'd be one black guy who's like, I'm good at math. And then one black guy was like, I'm good at English. But I was the only black guy who was in every one of the classes.
Okay.
And so there just became this thing where like one of the black guys, the black guy who was good at English was like, how come you don't hang out with the black kids at this school? And I was like, I had never thought of it. I was like, I'm just hanging out with the people I see in my classes. Like,
Right, like people do.
There's other like white kids who I see in all my classes. So when I go sit down to lunch, I go sit with the kids who are in all my classes.
Right, because you know them.
Because I know them. We know all the homework and we were talking about, I was like, I hadn't even thought about it like that. And he was basically like, well, there's been some talk. And it was like, what do you mean there's been some talk? Like you think you're better? No, I'm not thinking about it at all. I swear.
Right,
And then at one point, this was like I was standing with some friends of mine and this group of black kids come down the stairs, like black dudes. And I see them and I'm talking and this one guy pushes me up against the wall and they sort of like shake me down. They didn't take anything, but they sort of shook me down very publicly in front of everybody and they disappeared and they're laughing. And I was just sort of standing there and one of my white friends was like, I saw the whole thing. I'm like, you saw it? Where the hell were you?
Right. Why didn't you have my back?
And so, I understood it, but it was just like, they were mad because I wasn't hanging out with them when from my perspective, it was like, I'm not hanging out with you.
Right.
I'm just, I'm 13. Like I'm not thinking this through. I'm just hanging out with the people I see the most.
Right. It was a giant realization for me about 10 years ago when I realized that, because I used to be the one who was like, well, why isn't this happening? That person doesn't like me or that person. When about 10 years ago, I realized no one was actually thinking about me.
Yeah.
They're not,
yes.
Nobody's actively hating me.
Yeah.
Nobody's actively not thinking or not wanting to support me because I'm a woman or because I'm this or that.
Well, some people are, but I understand what you're saying.
Right. It occurs.
But you have to sort of have to ask yourself that question when you get angry about something or when you sort of like,
Yeah.
why is it? And I think I have that question. Is this because, and you go through other things and then sometimes you're like, nah, this is just because.
I think it's because they're not thinking about me at all
Yeah.
and they actually know that person better.
Yes.
It's just like that guy wants to hang out with the guys that he knows.
Yeah.
I'm a woman that he doesn't know.
Yeah.
I happen to be a woman. And so it doesn't even come up in his brain box.
Yes.
We could bring it up.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll bring it up. It's just
as you proved with that elevator story.
Right. Right. Yeah. And because people are not thoughtful. And
No.
my father is not a very thoughtful guy. It doesn't make him a bad person.
Yes.
It just makes him a guy who isn't thinking about anyone but himself.
Yeah.
And it just, but I tell a classic story because last year on his birthday, I called him and he said, I spent the entire day with your brother Russ and he didn't say happy birthday to me all day long. And I said, hey Dad, when's Russ's birthday? And there was a silence, and he goes, point taken. And I was like, dude, you nailed it. I mean, at least he can hear it.
Yeah. But you have to get it to him in that direct way. You have to sort of like, it's like point, counterpoint.
Yes.
Yeah. You can't, it's not about sitting down and having a thoughtful discussion. It's just
exactly.
it's like a court trial.
Yeah, right. Okay. So, it's been almost an hour. So let's make sure people know that you're going to go to Bridgetown, do the stand-up comedy.
I'm going to do stand-up at Bridgetown. There's a night, W. Kamau Bell and Friends happening at Bridgetown.
Excellent. And that is
featuring
in
several
Portland.
comics I haven't met yet as that goes.
I know it. I'm doing Ari Shafir and Friends tonight. And Ari Shafir is a nice man.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call us friends. I mean, we're not enemies.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure he's looking at the list going, Oh, all right.
Yeah.
And then you're doing that Jesse Thorne Max FunCon boat party thing.
I know the website is boatparty.biz, and I forget what but it's a comedy.
It's one of those
cruise.
comedy cruises.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With a lot of great comedians on it. Yeah.
Yeah, I bet. And then Bridgetown is a Portland, Oregon comedy festival.
In Portland, Oregon, in a couple weeks.
And then your regular schedule is just on WKamauBell.com.
Yeah, this whole year is about. There will be more dates being added shortly, but it's about gearing up for. My plan is to record a comedy special this year.
Oh, good.
And I'm starting a podcast with Earwolf, specifically about comedians and comedy. Like, there's a lot of comedy podcasts.
Yeah.
But I actually want to talk about the work of comedy.
Okay.
Like how you write
I'll be
your
on
act.
that.
Please do.
Well,
it's about
I do comedy.
because I feel like we talk a lot about the road stories and stuff, which is fine. But I mean, like, how did you write that joke?
Yeah. Yeah, where did that come from?
How did you construct your hour? Like,
okay.
Who are the comics who really, so really get into the nuts and bolts of comedy?
Yeah, I just did an hour where I recorded it and then I released it through allthingscomedy.com. And just one of the $5 downloads.
Nice.
And allow me to say publicly once again that Louis C.K., you could have set the price point at $10. But you set it at $5, and so now it's $5.
All you can do is go lower. You can't go higher.
Right.
You can go $4.99, but you can't even go $5 and 1 penny without being like, you're a penny better than Louis C.K.
Are you better than? Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and I do have a hard copy that people can get on the website. Clearly, you might want to go to JackieCation.com, get yourself a DVD.
Yeah.
It's got a bonus track. So, but whatever. But are you going to record your own and then market it, or are you going to do it with the people? If the people,
I'm willing to talk to the people about it.
Right.
I'm at this point where people sometimes want to talk to me now, and they didn't want to talk to me before Totally Biased. So I'll have the conversations, but
sure.
I certainly, the thing that ultimately sort of was one of the thing that was one of the frustrating things about Totally Biased, and it's not, FX was great. They were great people to work with, but was that people had a hard time getting the show. And so my thing now is about anything I do, I just want to make sure it's easily available. So certainly, I don't want to do anything where it's like,
yeah, because it was not only deep cable, it was deep cable adjacent.
Yes.
Because FXX, where you're like, well, now why are you being a jackass about it? Now we got to go through a.
Yeah, and it was also because it had been Fox Soccer. Some people had to pay, like you had to get it in the sports package even to get FXX. You're like, I don't know if I want the rugby channel, but I would like to see Totally Biased and reruns of Mad About You. So I guess I got to get the sports package. But yeah, so I just want to make sure whatever it is that it's easily available to people who like what I do or want to like what I do.
And people should like what you do, because I always enjoy what you do. People, get out there. See Kamau Bell do the stand-up comedy with the talking out of his joke hole, because it's always a good time. Thank you so much for doing the Dork Forest. I've learned a lot about fight movies.
Oh, and real quick before we go, the link between Rocky II and Bruce Lee is that Muhammad Ali. Both Rocky, Sylvester Stallone, and Bruce Lee were inspired by Muhammad Ali.
And I think that is the dorky out.
Yeah.
Well played. Have a good one. Take care out there. Bye.
My hat, my hat, my hat. They're dancing around my hat. My hat, my hat, my hat. Well, what do you think of that? If it looks like a Mexican hat dance and it sounds like a Mexican hat dance, it's most likely a Mexican hat dance. So take off your hat and let's dance.
Yay! Oh my God. Why don't we just call that as the end of the show?